Ladies and gentlemen, it's 8 o'clock, and we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to ask Representative Hawkins to open us with prayer.
Please bow with me. God, place your hands upon us today. Help guide us in our decisions and decisions that most benefit the people of this state and our families. And we ask this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Okay, this will be the first regular meeting that we've had this year because last meeting had to deal with distracted driving and the new data that has come out. Everyone has had a copy of the rules in their folder. I'd like to have a motion on do pass, please. All in favor say aye. All right, thank y'all. It's the same set of rules that we've been operating under for the last several years, so no changes. We've got several new members here. I think next week we'll let them introduce themselves, so y'all get ready. Tell us something good about yourself. So we'll welcome y'all individually next session because we've got 3 bills that we're going to hear this morning and got one other little exercise that Emily Bagwell's in charge of. So we'll get that taken care of. Staff members, Miss Pamela Lewis, is she still here? Yes, Pamela, raise your hand. She runs up my office, mine and Andy Welch's. You know, regardless of what I say, she runs it. Yeah, Marty, all y'all got somebody like that. Marty Wilson, my legal advisor, keeps me out of an awful lot of trouble. Okay, and he is a world of knowledge in insurance. But he hasn't figured out which world. Yeah. Vince Wygan, where are you? Raise your hand. Okay. He's our legal person. Anybody who wants to draft a bill that's going to come to insurance, I'd recommend that you let him do it because he will be the one to answer the questions that I have. So the more knowledgeable he is about the bill, the better. Is Betsy here? No, she's not. Okay. Noah, where are you? Noah Bailey is our intern. Very bright young man, very energetic. Gets here early every morning. Yeah, put him on the committee. Where's Michael? Okay. He's our committee aide or whatever you want to call it. He's another brains that I get to operate with. Those are the people who make me look good because I can't do it on myself, on my own. Because I've tried that before and it's been a miserable failure. Okay, Emily, you're on. Emily Bagwell, you have about a 5-minute time frame for the National Association of Mutual Insurance Companies.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I am pleased today to introduce Liz Reynolds with the National Association of Mutual Insurance Companies, and we have 2 special presentations to make.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to be here this morning. I'm Liz Reynolds, and I represent the National Association of Mutual Insurance Companies. We represent mutual insurance companies from the smallest to the largest, tiny farm mutuals up to big companies. We've been around for a very, very long time. In fact, in Georgia, some of our members include Georgia Farm Bureau, Southern Mutual, as well as State Farm with their large footprint in the state. So we're really pleased to cover many, many Georgia citizens. In addition, we're going to present you with an award here that is of Benjamin Franklin, who actually started the first mutual insurance company in the United States, the Philadelphia Contributionship, which is still a NAMIC member after those many years. So we're really pleased that we can award you and recognize you with this. We acknowledged the work that you do, as well as Representative John Carson, back in September at NAMIC's annual convention as recipients of our State Legislators of the Year Award for 2018. You weren't able to be there, but Representative Carson did attend that. But since you could not attend back in September, we wanted to have the opportunity to recognize you here at home. And as those of you here know, Chairman Smith has led the Georgia House Insurance Committee for 7 years. He's been instrumental in passing legislation important to the property and casualty industry and therefore to insurance consumers throughout the state. He consistently encourages all stakeholders to work together before session and early during session to come to an agreement and develop legislation that reflects the public policy, the best public policy for Georgia's citizens. During the 2017 session, Chairman Smith, along with Representative Carson, took a proactive approach to the creation of a House Study Committee to study distracted driving in Georgia that resulted in a new distracted driving law, which is now being used as a model in other states. Thank you, Chairman Smith, for all of your work. On behalf of the National Association of Mutual Insurance Companies, I'm delighted to present you with our State Legislator of the Year award.
Well, goodness, thank you. Thank you. Y'all just don't understand how painful that is.
I was going to say, and he really didn't want this to be done in public, but I appreciate you humoring us. Thank you.
Yeah, after the meeting. Because some of these people got work to do. Okay, since that's but I really do thank y'all. It's a great honor. And you know, the surprising thing is, this is a Canada and United States organization, and only 3, if I remember right, won it this past year. One poor soul out there in Texas, and John Carson and myself. So that's pretty good. Feel good about that.
And we know you both.
And he said he knows us better, me better. So okay. House Bill 63. You want to come to the? Or you can do it there.
I don't care.
Okay, that's fine. Be fine.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I bring you House Bill 63 for your consideration. This is the exact same bill, word for word, that passed out of the committee last year and got tied up over on the Senate side and didn't make it out. This is about step therapy protocols, and it's about the appeals to those. Most insurance companies have a step therapy protocol. But what happens in that, when step therapy means you have to try one medicine before you get before you get the medicine that your doctor's ordered, or maybe you have to try 2 medicines at one time. Our health group for the state tried to have people who were epileptic have to fail on 2 medicines before they could have the epileptic medicine that kept them from having seizures that their doctor had ordered. I will tell you that if an epileptic has a seizure, they lose their driver's license for about 6 months. And if you think about it, how do they take care of people? But our own state insurance director tried to do that to people. Obviously, we had something to say about it, and that policy was stopped before it was implemented. Insurance companies are a little different, and I will tell you this has been approved by the insurance companies. We came to an agreement last year. Every time I saw them this summer, I said, we're holding on that agreement, and they assured me that they were. What it does, it says when you have a step therapy protocol, if a physician documents certain information, that the patient will then be able to get the medicine they need. And now, the physician has to document and send to the company all the information. And when all that information is complete with the insurance company, then the clock starts running. If it's an emergency situation, they have 24 hours to respond. Otherwise, it's 2 business days. One of the things that we've had in the past is when you've had a patient and their physician appeal, it has gone on for weeks before they got an answer, and they either went without their medicine or they went with a medicine that was not effective for them. So the conditions are First, do no harm. If the medicine is contraindicated for that patient, they should not be made to take it. If it won't work, if the characteristics of the medication and the problems and the characteristic of the patient do not match, and it's going to make the medicine not work for that patient, that is one of the things for the appeals process when they should get their medicine. If they've already failed on it, believe it or not, insurance companies will try to make you fail on another one. And third, if they've already failed, but if it was with another insurance company, people change insurance all the time because they shop for the cheapest plan. And if they have one plan this year, but they can get another one that's $200 cheaper next year, then they switch it. And if they've already failed, then they shouldn't be made on another plan. They should not be made to fail again. That is what the bill does. This is for a patient. We did not bring patient advocates this time to testify before you, but I will tell you last time about a mother who sat with a little 6-year-old in her lap and cried as she presented it because her son at 6 years of age was being made to take a medication for a very serious illness that made it so painful for him to urinate that he would wet himself and he would cry and scream out because it was so painful, and then was refusing to go to school because he did not want to have accidents and have that happen while he was at school. This is the kind of thing. We're talking about serious illnesses. We're talking about Crohn's disease and things that are very hard to regulate with patients. And as I say, this is a bill that helps patients. Mr. Chairman, if there's no other questions, if there are questions, I'll answer them.
Yes, ma'am. And for the new members on the committee, for your benefit, this same bill passed unanimously out of this committee last session. It probably passed unanimously out of the House, maybe in one no vote.
Probably.
So
No, I think it might even gotten that.
even got
I
okay.
think it may
So
have gotten that one.
at worst there was one no vote, and then who was it? Then it got tied. Then it got tied up in some personality problems and politics over in the Senate. Shocking, yeah,
Along with 41 other bills.
yeah. So we've got one question so far. Representative Hawkins.
Madam Chairman, friendly question. I'm sure you thought of this,
Maybe
but
not.
I don't know the reason why we didn't include PBMs in the verbiage. You think this will
Well-
cover them?
I think there's a PBM bill in my committee right now, and probably some in insurance. Sometimes, Representative, we just take one bite at the apple at a time and don't try to confuse it, because sometimes that'll, kill a bill. So we went with the insurance companies first.
Thank you.
And to
Yeah.
answer that question, there is a PBM bill in your committee, and from what I understand, there'll be a PBM bill dropped this week that will probably enter this committee that in all probability will address that issue that you're talking about.
In other words, the PBM people are next. I'm sorry, but we're down here not to help companies or any individuals, but to help the patients of Georgia when it comes to health bills and insurance bills that affect the health of Georgians, and I know that's what the chairman and I are trying to do.
Any other questions? Okay, I guess it's time for a motion then. Maybe do pass? Second, okay. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Very good, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you to the chairman and the committee.
For those two of y'all, and I know you know this, go sign up in rules.
Go sign up in the rules.
You gotta fill out that little form.
Oh, yes, sir, I know, sir.
Okay,
Okay. No, I will do it right away.
Okay.
We seem to have a really low or small rules calendar lately. I will try to get this on
yeah,
right
we
away.
didn't have anything at all yesterday.
Yes.
Okay, House Bill 128. Representative Silcox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at
Could I interrupt you one
Yes.
second? For the committee's information, this bill passed out of subcommittee yesterday. Very good, thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking at LC 337579. Y'all have that? And
Okay.
the bill number is House Bill 128. All right.
Well, what happened to it? What's the number again?
128.
Oh, yeah, I know that. Okay, what's the LC number?
The LC is 337579.
Okay, hold on a second. Where'd Nora go? Okay, we got one here. Okay. Somebody? Well, present your bill.
Okay. This bill actually is an interesting bill in that Mag Mutual Insurance Company and the Georgia Trial Lawyers Association have actually agreed on this bill. And this bill really doesn't have to do with insurance so much as in medical malpractice cases, it is not unusual for, before a jury goes to debate, for an attorney to advise that the client go into what's called a high-low agreement. And that is if the verdict is returned in favor of the defendant, then the plaintiff would pay the low amount. On the other hand, if it's decided in favor of the plaintiff, then the high amount would be paid. And so this bill would just require if there was if there was a verdict for the defendant, usually a physician in this case, and that physician was not found negligent, then that physician would not have to report paying the low amount of the high-low agreement to the medical composite board.
Okay, now, for the medical composite board, that's Georgia's medical
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mhm.
What about the national?
No, I was going to say they already do not.
Okay, so it's already
Right,
understood
right,
that way now.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right, number one.
Thank you, Mr.
Well-
Chairman. I'm not quite understanding yet. So if a jury returned a zero, if they returned a total defense verdict, then would the defendant, which, like you said, would most likely be a physician, are they still required to pay whatever
If-
was in the high-low range?
Correct.
Even if a jury returned a zero verdict.
That's correct.
So it's an agreement
That's made beforehand.
beforehand, and so
Mhm.
if the high was 100,000 and the jury returned $1 million, then they would only get 100,000, right?
That's correct.
So it's just a way to kind of put in a scope what. Okay, that
And it's
actually
really,
makes perfect sense now.
Yeah, it really depends, on the situation.
It's
but if
risk and
it's-
reward for both sides.
Correct.
Yeah.
Number 29.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Silcox, Representative Reeves kind of answered first half of my question because both parties are managing risk in this case.
Yes, sir.
But I just want to make it clear that if a defendant is found not guilty, if you will, innocent, if you will, nothing gets reported on his or her records as far as their ability to practice medicine in Georgia. I mean, if they're innocent, or not guilty, or whatever the terminology is.
Right. They would be found not negligent because it wouldn't be a criminal; it'd be a civil matter. But they would have to be. They would have to report. It would still show up in insurance if there was a settlement paid out. They would just not have to report it to the composite board. So that would still be noted in the insurance records, but it wouldn't. Again, they would not have to report it to the composite board.
And just a follow-up question, Mr. Chairman. So just to be clear,
Right.
this is not going to haunt them moving forward. His or the OBGYN that's just practicing medicine, it has a claim against her. This isn't going to move forward to hurt her ability to get insurance or anything else, is it?
No, and this is just it. In the past, these physicians that have gone through, a really difficult situation in a malpractice case, often, when they have to still report it, then they backpedal and go, well, I wasn't found negligent, but I still had to report this. And so it's put the physicians in an awkward position, and that's why I think a lot of the reason this bill is being brought forward.
Well, it's a good bill. I do like the fact that, you know, you can have a pre-negotiated, if it's no harm to the practicer, the medical professional, the insurance company's managing risk, then it sounds like a win-win to me, so good
Thank you.
bill.
Thank you.
Number 20.
This payment, does this affect the liability insurance rate of the physician?
I'll let Mag Mutual answer that.
I mean, it is a claim against their policy, so I'd assume it would.
Okay, one thing. I'm gonna suspend the rules temporarily so you can answer that question for the legislature, because normally during hearings before the committee, only the presenter of the bill and the committee can communicate. But go ahead and make your,
Thank you.
Usually the low would have already been their deductible, so they would have essentially just paid.
I'm sorry, say it again?
Usually the low, there's a good chance it would have already just been their deductible, so it would have just been coming, there's a chance it may have just been, the physician is paying that low themselves, if that's making any sense.
So you're
So-
telling me then their rate does not go up the following year?
I mean, we would look at it still as if it was not, they were not found negligent in that case. So I can't speak completely to all of our underwriting, but,
So we don't know, really.
I guess it depends.
And I think to your question, Representative Hawkins, is it would depend on, the terms of the policy versus the terms of the settlement. The agreement, if the agreement's for more than the deductible, possibly the underwriters might take that into consideration. But as she testified, usually it's their deductible is the low. So in that case, it would not count in most cases.
19.
Thank you, Representative Silcox, or Chairman Silcox, for bringing this. I wanted to ask a question in regard to implementation and effective date. Would this go into effect upon the governor's signature? And if so, how would that be the demarcation line as to when the two parties in various, what I call it, suits, or what have you? When does that? What would be the phase in? Would it start with the governor's signature, and would that affect suits at that point going forward?
I'm sure it would go in with the governor's signature, but at the same time, I think it would depend on the date of renewal of the policy in terms of re-rating the policy, just because when the policy renews.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion at the appropriate time.
Okay, there are no other questions. Now's the appropriate time.
Move do pass, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Okay, we've only have one other little bill left. And I'm gonna turn what's number are you, 21? Okay, you're chairman now. We have House Bill 99, which was passed out of committee yesterday. Chairman Jeff Jones's committee. Well, okay.
Give me a number there. LC 46.
What is that correct LC number on this bill? We don't have that one either. We can go ahead and talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're gonna do the talking?
yeah.
You're gonna do it from here? Chairman Smith is gonna present the bill. We heard it yesterday in a subcommittee. We don't have the paperwork in front of us, but they'll have it in here by the time he finishes. So Chairman Smith is gonna present the bill.
I don't know if we'll have it in time while I get finished or not, because it's LC number 0028, 460028. Y'all know that over the last 2 or 3 years, we have been rewriting the insurance code. We presented a bill last year that was even thicker than this bill. And all that this bill does is corrections updates, modernizing of the insurance code. Because the last time the insurance code was addressed, a lot of people in this room were not born yet. If you were born after 1982, you were not born when this thing was modernized the last time. So that's all this bill does. There are no changes in policy. Like I say, all it does is just do a thorough review of the code section. And this starts on chapter 40 and goes through the end of this title 33. We have two more bills that are in the Senate currently. That'll do the first part of the chapter, and they'll no longer do the middle part of the chapter, and they do the exact same thing. They modernize the language, putting in updates, making corrections, and this kind of stuff. But the point I want to emphasize is it makes absolutely no changes in the policy.
Number 11. Do you have a question?
Oh, I do have a question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to get some understanding about the subcommittee meeting yesterday. To your point, this is probably a very important bill. I'm a member of that subcommittee. I've had someone here to be here for the meeting. It was not officially called in, and I'm trying to understand what other members were here as we, looked at this very important
The
bill.
meeting was held at 1 o'clock in room 415.
Correct.
And by the time we went through this brief explanation, it took about 5 or 6 minutes because there were no questions, and the meeting was over after it was a due pass. Chairman Jones was the chairman.
27.
So, Mr. Chairman, let me just kind of further comment. We properly called the meeting to order. There were 3 members present. The chairman made a presentation of the bill. A motion was made to pass that bill. It was properly seconded and voted on. And that being the only business, the committee was adjourned.
Number 12.
Can you talk about the different powers? And I understand we don't have the bill yet, but I'm looking at it, and it looks like there are some changes to what the commissioner may adopt as far as regulations. So can you talk about the changes for the power of the commissioner? Like if you look at specifically line 110 through 116, where it talks about, it's scratching out the language that the commissioner may adopt regulations around long-term care insurance policies, pre-existing conditions. Just talk about the changes you're making with what the commissioner can do.
Well, we're not making any changes. What we're doing is modernizing the language, there are certain things that occur, like say NCIS makes they pass regulations that in order for you to be certified, your insurance department to be certified, the legislature has to pass it. We have to plug those in order for the insurance department to be certified. But nothing as far as policy, nothing as far as policy changed.
So then can you then address more specifically lines 110 through 116, where it says, it's striking out the language that says the commissioner may adopt regulations that include standards for full and fair disclosure, setting forth the manner, content, and required disclosures for the sale of long-term care insurance policies and for applicable terms of renewability, initial and subsequent conditions of eligibility, non-duplication of coverage provisions, coverage of dependents, pre-existing conditions, termination of insurance, probationary periods, limitations, exceptions, reductions, elimination periods, requirements for replacement, recurrent conditions, and definitions of terms. Like, can you just...
I'll let the learned attorney who did this rewrite answer that question, if you don't mind.
Well, you picked out the exact section that I discussed with the insurance department day before yesterday, section 7, and they had some degree of doubt about whether their general rulemaking power would cover this. So that section is unaffected and was taken out of the bill. In the bill that is not before you, that section 7 has been marked as just reserved, so that it remains as it was.
So you're saying So you're saying that so lines 110 that I'm looking at online, since we don't have the bill in front of us, you're saying the actual bill, the entire section has been marked out as reserved, or just the language is not
The language
taken
is
out
not
anymore?
there. It's not taken out.
It's not taken out.
Yeah, it's not taken out. Now, I want to call your attention to something that, remember, lawyers don't always agree. That's why one lawyer in a small town will starve, but two will get rich. You can laugh, you can laugh. The insurance department asked me to leave that one as it was, even though in 33.1.2, they have the general authority to make whatever regulations they wish for the entirety of Title 33, which, if you read all of your legislation as being consistent within the title, would actually override these specific little delegations of rulemaking power. But going with their feelings on it, we just took out Section 7, so that is no longer in the bill.
Any other questions?
Representative Cannon.
Mr. Chair, so are we going to have the version of the bill before us before we take a vote?
Yes, we will delay vote on this until next, committee meeting, to, allow time, because they're not gonna have time to print this bill, this morning, because it's 17 pages. But it will be ready for, next Wednesday. Number 12.
Is that it for you?
Yeah, I guess, number 12.
Any more questions?
I got one, down there, number 12.
Not really a question, but just want to say thank you to Chairman Smith for delaying talking or voting on this bill since we don't have it in front of us. This is one of the few committees where we don't really have drama a lot. So I appreciate you delaying it so that we can really look at it so that everybody's comfortable. Because anytime you don't have a bill in front of you, then things default to trust. And we have different levels of trust for different folks. I appreciate that, Chairman Smith.
Number 27.
Number 27.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, if you would just give us that correct LC number one more time, just for the record.
LC 460028. It's on the website.
What? 460028, House Bill 99.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman, the
Substitute, there is a substitute.
Okay, there will be a substitute on that, so you can look at it on your website. LC 460076S. 0076S. And that's the one we're printing right now, and it'll be in your folder. As a matter of fact, we'll send it to you. We'll email it to everybody on the committee. So you'll have it, and then also we'll have a hard copy in your folder next session, or next Wednesday.
Any other questions? If not, we'll turn the meeting back over to our chairman.
Thank you, sir. I guess that concludes our agenda for today. Let me be sure. Okay. We will have that bill in the folder next week. We will email you a copy of it so you can take a look at it. But I want to emphasize, because the insurance department has looked at these bills, and they do nothing to impact the policy. They're just a modernization of the language, since it hadn't been done since '82. There's probably only a few of us here who were around at that time, age-wise. So if there's no other business, we're adjourned, except for taking that picture that I was talking about.